The Florida Gators have one more weekend of official visits this summer, and this one could be a doozy.
You are Locked On Gators, your daily podcast on the Florida Gators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Walk with me. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Locked On Gators, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every mother trucking day. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day. We are available daily and free wherever you listen to the podcast and on YouTube. Happy Tuesday. I'm Brandon Olsen. Find me on Twitter at WNS_Brandon. Find all my written work with Giants Country and NFL 33. These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high stakes wager for your small business. And that's why LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right people for your team faster and for free. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. Terms and conditions apply. I will say, if you're not part of the insider program, you should be. You got this list and some thoughts on it yesterday. If you are part of the insider program, now you're getting further elaboration. Also, I will say that I think this Thursday and maybe every Thursday during the summer, we might try to do this, a little live stream in the middle of the day, probably like noonish Eastern time, have a little fun with it. But the Florida Gators have one more weekend of official visits. They are allowed to have official visitors next week as well, but the way that Florida does it and has done it is that they're wrapping up early. They don't have any for the weekend of the 21st. They wrap up this coming weekend. And I will say also that this list trimmed down in recent days. We'll talk about those at the end of the show. Wouldn't shock me if Florida did what they could to try to add another name to this list. Right now, as we're looking at it on Monday evening, I will say that Florida again has time to make moves with a lot of these kids. And I know that for some people, it's kind of weird that it's like, oh, yeah, they haven't had any public commitments yet, which is weird. I do say public commitments very intentionally. So just remember that one. But Florida right now, we're going to start with the offensive players as we always do. Right now, they have wide receiver Dallas Wilson is the highest rated player scheduled to come in this weekend. He is the only 5-star scheduled to come in this weekend. 5-star receiver committed to Oregon right now. I will continue to be pessimistic here about, we're off to a hot start, right? I will continue to be pessimistic here about Florida actually flipping Dallas Wilson from Oregon and landing him. However, that being said, he's canceled visits with other schools. Like, he canceled a scheduled visit with Florida State for this weekend in order to be able to take the visit with the Florida Gators. So I will say that, yes, I remain pessimistic about Florida actually landing Dallas Wilson. However, him canceling a visit with another school to take this visit tells me, and I think should tell you as well, the door is still absolutely open here for Florida to land Dallas Wilson. It's just a long shot. But again, I do think that it speaks volumes for a player to have an official visit scheduled elsewhere, cancel it to take this one. Like, you don't do that if you're not actually considering this school that you're taking the official visit to, right? I think that everybody can piece that one together. Like, you're showing legitimate interest by canceling another visit where you're not as interested to take a visit where you are more interested. So I think Dallas Wilson to Florida is a realistic possibility, but it's a long shot at the same time. Another receiver, wide receiver, Vernell Brown III. We all are pretty familiar with him. Of course, dad Vernell Brown. 4-star receiver, legacy receiver. This feels like it's going to be Ohio State versus Florida. I will say this. I understand the Ohio State hype here. I've said it before. We said it with John Garcia. We said it with Brian Smith. If you're a receiver and Ohio State wants you, I get it why you'd go there. It's like if you're a QB and Lincoln Riley wants you, I get it why you'd want to go there. If you're a DB and Nick Saban wanted you, I get it why you'd want to go there. If you're an athletic edge rusher and Penn State wants you, I get it why you'd want to go there. There's certain schools, certain coaches where they develop guys at a great rate they have a really high success rate with getting players to the NFL at that position. And so for receiver, Vernell Brown III, Ohio State wants you. I get it. And then Florida, you've got the legacy angle, the closer to home angle. You've got all that. Also, I will say it's I think relevant that Vernell Brown's dad right now is the personal advisor for Anthony Richardson, who plays for the Indianapolis Colts, of course, went to Florida. But I'd imagine that means Vernell Brown Jr. has quite a bit of time that he spends in Indy. So Ohio State could actually be closer location-wise if Vernell Brown Jr. goes up near Indy or Columbus, and it makes that travel a little bit easier. I'm not saying I know anything about that. I'm just saying that that's a possibility, I think. But I also think Florida has a better chance than people are giving them credit for. I think that a lot of people see Florida and Vernell Brown III and they go, all you have is the legacy angle. No, Florida, with a guy like Vernell Brown III especially, you can go, hey, we just had a first-round pick at receiver. Yeah, Ohio State had one too, but we just did. We had the same number of first-round picks at receiver as Ohio State did this year. We've gotten guys to the league also. Kadarius Toney hasn't worked out at the NFL, but first-round pick at receiver. Florida's done it multiple times in recent years, and I do think that does give you a significant talking point, especially when you have Billy Gonzalez, who I know a lot of people don't really like. I know a lot of Florida Gators fans don't really like as far as him and his recruiting. Point stands that no matter how you feel about him, he has that selling point. He could say that consistently, and he's done it throughout his career. You have wide receiver Donovan. I'm so sorry for this. Olugbode? I want to say I tried looking up a pronunciation for it. I didn't find it. I reached out to try and see if I can get an answer. I didn't get an answer by the time that I recorded. But Donovan Olugbode, 4-star wide receiver. He's taken multiple trips to Gainesville. This one is a little out there. It's kind of very spread out where it's Florida, USC, Washington, and Missouri. 2 SEC programs, 2 former Pac-12 programs, 2 West Coast programs, Mizzou being in the Midwest and Florida in the East. I think Florida feels good about this. I do think that when you look at a lot of places, as in reporters that talk about this, they say, hey, like Florida should probably be considered the favorite here. I don't feel as confident in that. I know that we could trace back all the visits and everything and how many trips he's taken to Gainesville. I think that might be a proximity thing more than anything else, but we'll see how the official visit goes. Maybe he ends up committing. We know Florida wants to take 4 receivers. They've got 3 on campus this weekend. Offensive tackle Tavares Dice, 4-star Auburn commit. I said this last week about him, that Florida and Tavares Dice are pretty 50-50 right now, with Auburn competing for Tavares Dice's signature. The visit right now, because things have changed, the visit right now is still expected to happen, although it's kind of up in the air. Seemingly more committed to Auburn after a visit there. But even if his visit to Gainesville gets canceled this weekend, I wouldn't rule out the possibility of it getting rescheduled. This is still a kid who just last week we were being told it's 50-50 between Florida and Auburn. I don't think that you can convince the kid while he's on campus at Auburn last week enough to go, yeah, I'm going to shut it down entirely when I had an official visit scheduled the following week. Even if this one gets canceled, would not shock me if there was actually, it would shock me if there wasn't a fall visit at some point. Unless the visit does get canceled and Florida feels spurned and doesn't want another visit. I'd be very surprised, though, if Tavares Dice were to cancel this visit and keep it canceled for the entirety of this process. Running back Waltez Clark will also be on campus, 4-star Florida commit, one of the first Florida commits in the class, if not the first Florida commit in the 2025 class. Was supposed to officially visit UCF last week. He visited UCF the week before. So he visited UCF the May 31st, June 1st weekend. Was supposed to officially visit UCF June 8th weekend, June 7th, whatever the Friday was. June 7th. Yeah. And then canceled it. I would like to believe that that means he's locked in with Florida. But I can't really say that in full confidence, especially after what I just said about Tavares Dice. A kid where it feels like, hey, a flip could happen, took a visit, canceled the visit the next week. I can't see you fully going, I'm knocked in, like no more visits. Wouldn't shock me if this official visit to UCF got pushed down the road at some point, or if UCF backs off because of it. But I'm not 100% confident here. Speaking of UCF, tight end Caden Peoning, I think that's how it's pronounced. I like that this week Florida's like, hey, we're just gonna save the last official visit week for when there's kids with hard to pronounce names for Brandon because he sucks at that. I don't actually suck at it. I think I'm pretty good at it, but there's some where I can't find pronunciation and it screws me up. But Caden Peoning, 3-star UCF commit right now. Florida and UCF have been the top two for him for a while. But I think what sticks out to me here is that Florida was late to this party. He committed to UCF, and he's even said since the commitment date that he's like, I committed to UCF because at the time it just felt like the right move to make. That doesn't sound super confident, right? Like you're not like, yeah, I committed to UCF because that's home. I committed to UCF because that's where I want to be. He's from Cincinnati, so none of these places are home. But it's not I committed to UCF because they're the right place for me. It's I committed to UCF because it felt like the right move to make at the time. You don't seem super bought in. That's all I'm saying. I do think that Florida has a real chance here, but again, the same way that I felt about the tight end position this whole cycle has been, I think this comes down to who were the first two tight ends in the boat, because that's probably who Florida is going to take in this class at tight end. We are about to look at the defensive side of the ball, but first we're going to get a quick word from LinkedIn. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs is the tools to help find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn also isn't just another job board. LinkedIn is where you can find professionals like moi. Again, I know I'm not the 1960s professional dude, but like I know how to handle a workplace. All right, I'm just saying. But yeah, you'll find me. You won't find me on anywhere else. I don't even know the names of these other places. Like, does Monster count here as a competitor? If so, you're not. Indeed, that's one. Think. I don't know. Everyone knows LinkedIn. Not everyone knows the others. That's all I'm saying. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions do apply. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day every day. We are available daily and free wherever you listen to podcasts and on YouTube. Don't forget, audio drops at 3 a.m. Eastern Time, video 8 a.m. Eastern Time on YouTube. Just saying, we also have the Insider program, which if you want all this information, more analytics, and any rumors or news that I hear, links in the description below to join that Insider program. 2 weeks free, $5 a month after that. It's nothing. You're going to get a lot of messages. The people in the comments can let you know. We've been growing in recent weeks. It feels really good. There's also a Discord links in the description below as well. Looking at the defensive visitors that are going to be on campus this weekend. Ooh. First off, we got safety Hilton Stubbs, 4-star USC commit. You all know where I stand on this. And if you don't know, you better ask somebody. Or just listen for the next 30 seconds. Hilton Stubbs is someone that I think will decommit from UCF at some point. He committed earlier in the year. I think it'll be really hard for USC. I think I said UCF a couple times. USC, Southern California. It'll be really hard for USC to keep this commitment for almost a year across the country. Like USC does some nice things, but across the country, we've kind of seen some signs of him wavering a little bit already. It's just really hard to keep a year-long commitment in today's day and age across the country, whether you're talking relationship or football, whatever it may be. It ain't easy to do things in 2024. It's like easy to do things, but it's not easy to do things, if you get what I'm saying. There's a lot of virtual ability there. But man, you could take unofficials to Gainesville. you can take unofficials to other schools in state. Probably going to waiver at some point when you can't just pop on over to Southern California. Can't just, oh yeah, I'm just going to slide to LA real quick on my own dime since it's not an official visit. Hard there. I do think Florida's in pretty good position if he does flip, which again, I do think he will flip at some point. I think Florida's the most likely place where he will flip to. Next up is linebacker Tavion Wallace, 4-star linebacker, elite linebacker that I would say is he's the number one linebacker I want right now. Just I know that I've tried to get more vocal with my actual opinion of these players lately. Tavion Wallace, top linebacker on my board from all the linebackers that I've watched, which isn't a ton, but the one that I watch and I go, yeah, you could be a dude at the next level. That's Tavion Wallace. I do think that he visits UF this weekend, visits Florida State the next weekend, wants to commit shortly after that. I think that his initial commitment will be to Florida State. I chose those words specifically, okay? I think his initial commitment goes to Florida State, but I think this is one that can take a long time before we get a definitive answer. I don't care if he goes, yep, shut down. Hell, we saw a linebacker last year commit to Florida, shut down his recruitment, and, well, he is not a part of the Florida Gators 2024 signing class. So, things change, right? Tavion Wallace, again, I'd put the full court press on him. I think he could be elite. I think he's got work to do, but I think the physical tools that he has, elite. Linebacker Ty Jackson, another 4-star linebacker. This is similar to Dallas Wilson. Canceled the visit this weekend with Florida State in order to make the visit to Florida work. And I know that I mentioned, hey, recruitments, some visits got canceled in recent days. This is one that just got added the other day. So Florida made a big move getting linebacker Ty Jackson to cancel his visit with Florida State, make the visit to Florida. Okay? And again, similar. This is Dallas Wilson of the offense, of the defense, I guess. This is going to be a bit of a long shot for the Gators, in my opinion. But the fact that you got him to cancel a visit with someone else to come visit you, which again, you could reschedule that. Like Ty Jackson, Dallas Wilson could have easily just been like, hey guys, like you could have called Florida State and been like, hey, I know you want me to OV to you. I'll still do that, but this weekend I need to OV with Florida because this is their last weekend that they're doing official visits this summer. Maybe that's the case. Maybe it's not. Maybe guys might be pissed that you canceled that visit to go visit Florida. Maybe. But again, with Ty Jackson, I think it's a long shot, but the fact that you got him to make moves this late in the game, the week of an official visit, cancel an official visit to come visit with you, I think that should be, or at least if it's not for you, it's good enough for me. That's good enough to tell me that Florida's in this. Maybe not at the top, maybe not in the top 3, whatever. But it's good enough to tell me that Florida's in this battle because he's canceling visits with other schools to take this visit. Those are good selling points there. Then you have 4-star Auburn commit Malik Autry. The USC had him on campus this past weekend, made a big move with him reportedly that they've maybe turned his head to them. Could be what Florida needs. I've talked about this before with Solomon Thomas, Javian Hilson, where even if you don't flip the kid, sometimes you can do a good enough job to sway them elsewhere because, again, there's a lot of negative recruiting going on. So like Florida, I promise you, with Javian Hilson, they're probably looking at him going, hey, when's the last time Florida State truly developed an edge rusher? Because they've been portal kings, right? They like to call themselves portal kings because they can't develop high school edge rushers. They don't do that well. They let other people do the work, and then they come and then they reap the benefits of it. That kind of negative recruiting might not get him to commit to you, but it might get him to commit elsewhere. And sometimes it's good enough to just want him to not be with your rival, right? And Auburn's not a direct rival of Florida, of course, but it's possible that when he took that visit to USC, he's like, hey, I'm a little shaky on Auburn. And hey, maybe USC doesn't flip Malik Autry. But if they've done enough to turn his head away from Auburn, and then he's taking a visit to Florida, you could swoop in and make a move here. It's possible. Safety Lagonza Hayward is the next 4-star safety, pure SEC battle. He put out a Final Four yesterday or Sunday, I forget. But it's Tennessee, Georgia, South Carolina, Florida. He's committing on July 27th. And I got to say, right now, I feel like he's going to be a Georgia Bulldog. Haven't heard a ton from any sources at Florida. Haven't heard any confidence really from him. I think he's going to be a Georgia Bulldog when it's all said and done. Maybe Tennessee Volunteer, but I don't think Florida or South Carolina are going to land him unless they make big moves leading up to that July 27th commitment date. Edge Cedric Works, 4-star edge rusher. I feel like we're early in his process. Even if he does commit early, I feel like we're early in his commitment process where he's still looking at a lot of programs. He's got official visits to schedule. I think right now Penn State's the favorite. But again, I feel like we're early in his process. So Florida could make a move here, could solidify themselves going into the season. And by the time early signing day comes around, anything could happen. Last defensive player is safety Bryce Fitzgerald, a 4-star safety that it's going to come down to Florida or Miami for him. Simple as that. I don't think that there's really anybody else. He hasn't taken visits elsewhere. His only official visits were Florida, Miami. Miami's had him on campus a lot. And they will get his last official visit next weekend. But he's on Florida this weekend, or he's on Florida's campus this weekend. You have as big a chance as you're going to have to make a move here. And I mean, for Will Harris, you've got Bryce Fitzgerald, Lagonza Hayward, and Hilton Stubbs. Those are the 3 players that you've got to worry about if you're Will Harris on campus this weekend, unless someone else adds. But right now, that's who you got. Like, you could focus all your attention on those 3. You've got other assistants that'll help out. Austin Armstrong works with safeties. He'll be talking to people there. You'll figure things out, but you can make a move here with Bryce Fitzgerald. Florida needs some safety help for the long-term future because, I mean, we're already approaching a time where when these kids come in the 2025 season, Jordan Castell will be draft eligible. Bryce Thornton will be draft eligible. Asa Turner will be in the NFL already. DJ Douglas will be gone already. Triquez Bridges will be gone already. You got to add some safety depth for the long-term health of your team here. So for Florida, buckle down. Try to get at least one of these safeties to commit to you, or at least position yourself well for guys like Lagonza Hayward who are committing later on and try to make the most of it. We are about to talk about the canceled visits from this weekend. Cancel culture is just getting way out of hand. But first, we're going to get a quick word from FanDuel. Today's episode of Locked On Gators is brought to you by FanDuel. Summertime means baseball, means the NBA Finals, and more, and you can bet it all on FanDuel. I'll tell you what I'm not going to do. Bet another freaking $1 on Kyrie Irving. My Lord. What a fraud. What a fraud he is. Like, after all Kyrie might be turning around. Like, I lied. He's not doing it. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bets. $200. You can use a bet on everything from Finals MVP, who's going to hit a home run, strikeout parlays, anything. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and add a big win to your summer bucket list. Remember that FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day. Every day. We are available daily and free wherever you listen to the podcast and on YouTube. Florida had 4 official visits scheduled for this weekend that got canceled. This was supposed to be a near 20-man official visit list. Now we're down to 14, 13. Again, wouldn't shock me if you added a couple names here. You were planning on a big official visit weekend. We'll see. But it also feels like Florida might have been the one making the moves here, like wide receiver Dalen Upshaw. I don't know exactly what happened with this official visit that got canceled. I will say that the way that On3 reported it, who On3 reported all these visits getting canceled, the way that On3 reported it kind of made it sound like Florida's backing off here. And again, I'm not sure if that's a spin thing or what, but the way that they reported it was that Upshaw's visit got canceled. He's high on the Florida. He's high on multiple Sunshine State programs. Billy Gonzalez has options here. I don't know. That just reads to me that I was paraphrasing, but that just reads to me like Florida might have been the ones to cool down here. Maybe they were, because there's also another receiver we'll talk about in a minute. But maybe they were the ones to cool down here, going, "Hey, we got 3 receivers on campus. We don't need 5." That's hard to sell five official visitors at receiver and go, "Yeah, we want you all a lot." Just again, this is optics. It's hard to sell that and be genuine about it. So maybe that was it. Maybe Dalen Upshaw schedules one during the season. Wide receiver CJ Ingram, Cornelius Ingram's son, is another one that, again, was supposed to officially visit this weekend. No longer happening. I'm not sure exactly what's going on here. However, this is one where I genuinely think it was Florida that made the move. Just because you look at CJ Ingram's recruitment timeline, it's kind of been all Florida. Like Florida's been the big needle mover for him. I know he's got a couple offers from other Power 4 programs, but like he hasn't gone on official visits. Like he hasn't done a ton. So this is one that to me feels like Florida is kind of like, yeah, we know that we're in the driver's seat of this recruitment. We know that if we pushed, he would commit to us right now. Let's see where some dominoes fall, because they want to take 4 receivers this class. So maybe their thought process is, let's see where some dominoes fall. You know, we a couple of our targets commit elsewhere. We're feeling good about some. Maybe it doesn't happen. Like, I don't know. Florida feels good about Nashawn Montgomery, Kobe Howard. Maybe those guys are like, you know what? Never mind, going to go elsewhere. And then you can kind of spin the block on CJ Ingram and go, all right, Ben, come on into the class. Maybe I do think that if Florida wants to set up an official visit with him during a game weekend in the fall, they can make that happen. Again, wouldn't shock me. I'd imagine that this is Florida prioritizing other receivers. Not a knock on CJ Ingram at all. It's just, I think, what the writing on the wall tells me here. And again, it's just me piecing it together. It's not me using inside information. It's me trying to piece together some things. Cornerback Antonio Branch was supposed to be on campus. Florida was pretty late to this recruitment, and I'm not sure who canceled this visit or if rescheduling it is a possibility or not. His official visits so far were Nebraska in, I believe, late April, when you can take those OVs, Penn State, and then he has Louisville on June 21st. On June 21st. And yeah, I'm not sure if this was Florida canceling it or him canceling it or whatever it may be. I don't know. Because I'm a little torn on it, because this isn't the typical DB that Florida targets if you look at the offer sheet and the visit list, because usually those guys that Florida's targeting, they're also visiting Texas, Georgia, Bama, those kind of programs. And here it's Nebraska, Penn State, and Louisville, who aren't bad programs, but they're not typically where you see SEC caliber corners visit officially this late in the game and only be those visits. So it's interesting there. Not sure what happened with it. Curious to see if Florida's backing off here a little bit. And if this is a CJ Ingram, like, oh, like we think we can make a move here. We're just choosing not to right now. And then interior offensive lineman Mal Waldrop was the last one to cancel, or the last name that we're going to talk about that canceled. Likely going to commit to Alabama. However, I will say from my standpoint, never really, like, Mal Waldrop just never really felt like a kid that would be a Gator or seriously considered being one, if that makes sense. I don't know, just this whole recruitment, anytime we've had the conversation or he's come up, it's never felt like Florida's really in on him, and it never felt like he was really in on Florida. It kind of felt like one of those situations where it's like, yeah, he's an offensive lineman, we'll recruit him. But there was never a ton of mutual interest at all, it felt like, the entire time. So I do think he's going to be an Alabama Crimson Tide player. But yeah, this one just is what it is. It's not weird that it got canceled. He just visited Bama. seems like he's going to commit to Bama. Makes sense to cancel an official visit for a program that he's kind of, I'm sure, pretty much decided not going to go to. And I don't know how much they were willing to take him at this point either. We'll see what happens with it. Again, it wouldn't shock me if Florida added some visits for this weekend just because you were planning on more visits, right? If you can make something happen, make something happen. Thanks for making Locked On Gators the first listen of the day. Every day we are available daily and free right listen to the podcast. We'll be back tomorrow. Talk more Florida Gators football. For Locked On Gators, I'm Brandon Olsen. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at WNS_Brandon. Find all my written work with Giants Country and NFL 33. And I will see you all next time.